Okay, so the first question is, describe the environment you grew up in.
From birth, you mean? Like when I was like in grade school? Or what? High school?
At any time. This is really focusing on your early childhood and during the 60s and 70s.
Okay, I can tell you very good about the 60s and 70s. The 60s and 70s came from black and white TV. In 1968, we had color TV. The Monkees came on. It was very, very interesting to us. Very exciting time. And the Beatles came on. We thought we were in heaven. And we also had, we always went down to Snow White Drive-In in Hanford. All the girls did, and we'd go have, Coke or something down there. Mm-hmm. And you could walk through Hanford all the time. If you lived on the other side of Hanford by Superway Market on 10th Avenue, you could walk all the way across town to from Superway to the Snow White Drive-In, which was right in the middle of town. Mm-hmm. Nobody bothered you. No cars like that stopping. Yeah. You might have a cat call sometimes, but that was it, It was kind of, we're the 60s, Yeah. There were mini skirts and old lady shoes, and yeah, it was kind of our own time, and it's kind of almost like a hippie era.
Okay. Would you say your family was poor, well off, or in between?
Poor, very poor.
Okay. What was your fondest memory from childhood?
Being with my grandmother.
Did you guys go on a lot of trips or family vacations?
No, just going to her house, and her always, like making my favorite meal. We did go and go to the mountains a couple of times and go swimming with my grandmother and that kind of thing.
So just a quality time.
Quality time.
Okay. Did your mother work outside of the home?
Oh yes. She was a nurse.
She had worked nights. Nights. Okay.
My dad worked days, my mom worked nights. It was really hard. There was 4 children in our family.
Oh, okay.
I was the oldest, so I took care of everybody.
What is the highest level of education you completed?
High school. I graduated from high school. I took 2 college courses. They were all in accounting.
Did you go to public schools or private? Public. Do you remember doing disaster drills in school?
Oh, yes.
What kind?
Get under the desk, cover your head, oh yeah. And then also fire drills going outside.
Was your school segregated?
No.
Did it have many girls' sports teams?
No.
Do you remember any of the major events of the civil rights era?
Oh yes, I really remember lots.
Were you an active participant in any of them, or know anyone who was an active participant?
No.
How did you feel about them at the time?
Very disgusted.
How do you feel about them now?
Disgusted.
Same feelings. Do you have any strong memories of the Vietnam War?
Yes, I do.
Were you a veteran of the Vietnam War, or know anyone that served in the war?
Yes, I know somebody that served in the war, and they came up with Agent Orange. They died from cancer, and yes, very well know about Vietnam, and I think the boys should never have been there.
So you opposed it?
I opposed it.
Do you still oppose it?
I still oppose it.
What was your reasoning?
My reasoning.
Just your own personal?
My personal one.
Do you recall your whereabouts when the death of President John Kennedy in November of 1963 was announced?
Absolutely. My parents were Democrats, which being Democrat now is very different from that era. Democrats then were conservative. Now Republicans are conservative. My parents were conservative. I was in front of the TV when he was shot. My parents never moved from that TV. I mean, we all mourned Kennedy. We all thought he was the greatest president there was. We still do.
How did you hear about the death of Martin Luther King Jr.?
Oh, it was all over TV. You couldn't possibly miss it. I mean, he was, I love, what is her name, Loretta, his daughter, Loretta something King.
I don't know her name.
I can't remember the correct first name, but I like to listen to her a lot, and she tells about her dad a lot. And then she also tells about, when they start fighting now, like Chicago and all that kind of stuff, what they're doing. She also explains why it's wrong.
Yeah.
Which I really like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that is.
Her father would not like that. It wasn't right.
What was the general mood in your community when it happened?
I grew up in the wax time. It's a different era. It's really hard. I don't know how to put it. People then, it was really hard. I can't explain by words how we felt. The African American and the white people did not get along.
Mm-hmm.
It was very, very hard. Very, very hard time. My grandkids now don't have to face that, what we faced. And the blacks didn't like us and we didn't like them. Now we come around and accepted them. But a lot of times now we are not like white people. I call myself a white person.
Mm-hmm.
Where there's more of them than us now. So we're like just a little tiny group.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all I can say. I mean, it just is what it is.
Yeah. How did your family react to it?
We're very just dazed. When you have like the watch riots, I always remember the watch riots were when a truck driver got lost in the wrong neighborhood at the wrong time.
Mm-hmm.
He got the wrong driving directions.
Mm-hmm.
He went off in the wrong side of town. He stopped his truck. There was people that went and pulled him out of his truck and beat him in the head with a brick. The black people.
Mm-hmm.
He was a white guy. They about killed him. I'll never forget it.
Yeah, my dad was telling me he was really young at the time of the Watts riots growing up in LA, and he said he remembers the army trucks driving by his house all the time. And he thought it was cool because G.I. Joe was really big at the time, but later on he realized that was something that was cool.
It wasn't cool.
That was a big
It wasn't
deal.
cool at all. I mean, when that truck driver was getting beat up, it felt like a beating.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was much younger then. I mean, I was like 17.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like it one bit.
Yeah.
I just thought, where is people protecting now?
Yeah.
Where's the people?
Where's our protection at?
But then the Watts riot during that time too, the police couldn't even go in there.
Mm-hmm.
When you can't get the police to go in and protect you, something's wrong.
Yeah.
They wouldn't come in there even to get the truck driver out.
Wow. That's crazy.
It is very crazy. I guess that's why I have such a distaste
Mm-hmm.
and such a bitter feeling about it. I mean, because it was wrong. It was very wrong.
Mm-hmm. Did you watch the landing of Americans on the Moon in July of 1969 on television?
Absolutely. It was the best thing in the whole world.
Yeah. That was really fun.
We thought we were going somewhere. It was the greatest thing, and we watched every bit of it.
Yeah. Do you recall the UFW strikes against farmers in the 70s and 80s?
Yes, I do.
Were you involved either for or against in the strikes led by Cesar Chavez?
Either.
What are your general feelings about those strikes?
I don't think I should comment on it.
Okay.
Because my husband was a farmer, we farmed the farmers. Yeah, there needed to be, let me put it this way. My husband and I were the highest paying people around it, where we had the Mexican farm worker working for us, harvesting cotton. We had 4 cotton harvesters, and we paid the most money. We've had other farmers come to us. We had one of the farmers come to us complaining because we were paying more money. Mm-hmm. And my husband just looked at him and he says, if you want to pay your farmers more money, your hands more money, go ahead. He says, but my hands are going to get what they deserve. They're working very hard for me. Yeah. And they work, 16, 18 hours a day. He says they're going to get paid for it. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the farmers don't even pay, like, according to the rules of agriculture, which is like on the 7th day, you pay 8 hours, time and a half. Mm-hmm. After 8 hours, you pay double time. They don't even do that. They do it on a regular, 7-day week, like Monday through Sunday, and then they start over. You're supposed to count 7 consecutive days. So when they don't do that, they're cheating the Mexican worker. We don't cheat them. Mm-hmm. We pay them correctly. Yeah, that's always. It's a great big deal. I mean, if wage and hour came out on you, they could get you, and they could bust a lot of farmers for that. We even had it done with a contract labor person that we hired.
Mm-hmm.
We hired him to get labor for us because we didn't want to take the liability anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So we hired him. But then it was more work for me anyway because he started cheating the employees. The employees were getting mad, so they wanted to quit in the field. So I had to go back to the time cards and tell them, no, you have to pay them. And I said, we won't pay the bill unless you pay them according to what I say. So I had to fill out the time cards anyway and still send them to them.
Mm.
Even though that they were doing it. You know, it's like, but it took a lot of liability off of us from, like, the worker being in the field on our payroll.
Uh-huh.
You know, because it got to where, like, the last 3 years my husband worked, people wanted to go out on back claims, stuff like that. So then you get really afraid of what your employees will do.
Yeah.
Because they could ruin you.
Uh-huh. Did you know anyone before 1980 who was openly gay or homosexual?
I did.
Do you recall the 1980 presidential election between Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan?
I did.
Who did you support?
Who do you think I'd support? That's a very easy one.
Yeah. Why did you support them?
Because I loved everything they did.
And this is the last question. Well, there's a two-part question.
For America. Anybody for America, that's what I wanted.
What impact did the events of September 11th, 2001 have on you?
I could not believe it. I just could not believe our country could be attacked in such a manner. I still can't believe it. And I'm still just livid from it that something like that could go on. It's just, there's no words to say. I think it was, oh my gosh. I just think they should have went and just blew up everything. Because I was so mad. I mean, they deserved more.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you go in and you kill babies in nurseries and everything else in those buildings,
yeah,
and they came down like they did, I mean, those are jet planes, yeah, they go through things and they crash. But for buildings that come down like that, I don't understand that. I really don't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand. They have jet fuel and like that, but I still don't understand it. I don't. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. You kind of answered the second part already, so that's good.
I did?
Yeah, the second part was, do you believe that event still has an impact on your life?
It does.
Yeah.
Most certainly.
Yeah. So, and that's all the questions we have.
I really haven't spoken, sorry.
No, it's fine. What did you say that better the interview is?
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So this is part of the video interview assignment where I have to reflect on my interview with the person I chose. I chose Clarice. She is the grandmother to my best friend. I have known her for 5 years now, and I wouldn't say she's very opinionated, but she is very long-winded at times. And she was really good about this interview, keeping her answers minimal. And for some of the answers, I could tell she wanted to give in further detail, but she didn't want this to be a long project. So for that reason, it may seem like a shorter interview. And I did tell her beforehand not to feel the need to keep her answers short, but we didn't want them to be excessively long and be a long project. So for that was part of it. It was really interesting interviewing her because I have, like I said, I've known her for 5 years, but we've never really had much conversation on her life. We've kind of just talked about what was going on between Crystal and I, or what was going on in our lives at the time, what we were into, stuff like that. So it was really cool to be able to talk to her and get to know her a little bit more. For the fact that I knew that her family grew up in the Central Valley and around the Fresno area. They currently live in Lemoore. I knew they lived in that area her entire life, but I didn't think about how she got to see places like Hanford grow. She talks about how they used to be able to walk clear across town and no one would bother them, and there weren't any cars. So it was really a small area that she grew up in that has now grown to be still pretty small on the scale, but much larger than what it used to be. She was very open about her family's background being poor, and they didn't have many trips, but she loved to just be with her family, especially her grandmother. And it was really important for her to grow up and be strong growing up because she was the oldest of 4, she said. And so with her dad working days and her mom working nights, I really saw that in her, that it was important for her to be independent and be there for her younger siblings, because somebody needed to be the home taker, the home care, while her parents were away. Her and her husband are farmers in the Central Valley. They have pistachio orchards, and they used to have cotton. They've had all varieties of different crops, and she talks about it in the interview when we talk about the Cesar Chavez strikes and her feelings about those. So we talk about those a little bit, but it's really interesting to have this interview with someone who has firsthand experience in the agriculture industry rather than a lot of the veteran industry, or not industry, but a wartime person being involved in the Vietnam War. And she wasn't really she was impacted by the Vietnam War, and she had strong feelings against it, but she was more of the agriculture. When we talked about agriculture industry, she had way more to say about that. And after the camera actually stopped, she talked more about it, how these days now, especially with this huge drought hitting California, it's being harder and harder to be involved in the ag industry. She's had to dig about 4 wells. They've had to drill about 4 wells this year alone. And if this drought continues and she's going to have to possibly drill more wells, they're not going to be able to continue with their orchards in Lemoore. They're going to have to move, actually. So she talked a little bit about that after the camera stopped. But I really enjoyed this experience of interviewing her and getting to know her more on the personal level of, where she came from in her own family life, because I know my friend Crystal, I know how she's growing up. I sort of know how her mom grew up. And now, excuse me, to see how her grandmother has been growing up. And I think she really enjoyed being able to talk about her past life, because she even said, these are things I've been thinking about recently. These are really important to me. And so it's something that she's been personally affected by, and she's been wanting to share this, just been looking for someone to share it with, not just to bring it up, just to be like, well, let's talk about the 60s, or let's talk about all these things that happened in the past. And so it was really interesting for me to get to speak to her about the past, and I know she really enjoyed it. And so that's basically it. I really enjoyed getting to know the people that I've been around for so long, getting to know them a little bit deeper and having a more personal experience with them. So